It's episode 289 of The Platformers, a show about games and nerd culture, and I am your host, Brian Barnett.
I'm the other host, Kris Cornelius, aka Delphi.
And I'm the third host, Will Berger. Hi.
Hey, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff this week. Our short vacation is over, and by that I mean my short vacation is over, and we're back to talk about some games. We got a bunch of reviews that we're going to be talking about this week, including the big one, for me at least, Disgaea 7. I got the whole deal. I'm already in the post game. We're talking about all that sort of stuff. Kris is going to be hitting us. Kris is going to be hitting us with a full Starfield review. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. But first, I want to tell you guys that I am one full calendar year older than I was the last time you guys saw me. I went into the hyperbolic time chamber, came out the other side, smarter, stronger, a little bit sexier, but not too much. Because we don't want to change. We don't want to change
just
too much.
A little bit. It's a treat.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, just for fun. And also, I had some people come into my house because we had a potential gas leak. Woo! So if I get a little
birthday, here's an explosion.
Yeah, if I get a little bit loopy or suddenly the feed cuts off and all that sort of stuff, it's because my house has been blown to bits. But it shouldn't now. I mean, the likelihood was more likely before, but we should be good now.
Or it was a ruse to get into your house to set up the gas leak.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Kris knows. He's got a big enough mustache to know when you need to twirl it. So
it's difficult to twirl it. I can twirl the beard, but that's about it.
Really?
Yeah,
I even twirl what I've got, and I've got almost nothing over here. I'm just like,
I mean, kind of.
But
for those who are audio only, my beard is extensive. So
it is. It's extensive and glorious and substantially redder than your hair, which is
I know,
also
it's hilarious. I have the major case of Redbeard.
It's very funny because I was talking to Riley the other day, and she was like, "Dada, I like this. That this is the color of black, which is the color of your beard." And I was like, "My beard is black?" I'm like, "Look really closely. Is it black or is it brown?" And she said, "It's black." And then I looked at it, and it's not black, but it looks black to a 3-year-old. So
it's a dark brown. It's a very nice dark brown, you know.
Yeah, and it used to be light enough where you could tell that I actually have 2 little red triangles here. But I don't know why. It's weird, you know.
Yeah, it's a mystery.
It's
I was born substantially blonder than I am now, and now it's like anywhere between, you know, kind of dark blonde and brunette, but beard is red. Beard is just red. It always has been. So it's like, well, all right, cool. I'm not making any sense of that. I'm just rocking it.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. And I'm definitely in the same boat. I don't know that many people whose hair got darker, but mine definitely did. When I was a kid, I wished that my hair was dark like my dad's. Like, my dad also born almost like bone white, like platinum blonde hair. And when he grew up, his hair is dark brown now. I mean, now it's kind of like, it's salt and pepper. You know, got the old George Clooney rocking. But yeah, it was dark brown, almost black for a really long time. And I was like, when I grow up, I want to have dark hair like my dad. And my mom was like, that's not going to happen. That's not how that works. And lo and behold, my like bone white, like I looked like a fucking Malfoy is what I'm here to tell you guys. And now, like, depending on who you ask, my hair is like actually brown or just dark blonde. So I don't know.
Similar story to me then. Fascinating.
It's very strange, very strange. Will, has your hair always been the same color?
I was actually very blonde as a kid.
What the heck? That's 3 for 3. More common than you think,
the
I guess?
blondest podcast you don't know, yeah.
Yeah, I was like platinum blonde.
So I guess blondes may have more fun, but then they turn into brunettes, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah. Which is funny because you look at it now and like
angry.
Yeah,
it's very brown. It's very brown.
Yeah.
So, you know, what are you going to do, I guess?
Unless like a picture of Dorian Gray, we've all just sinned so much that our hair just keeps getting darker and darker and darker to reflect the contents of our soul, which are becoming blacker and blacker.
Our hair is a monument to all our sins.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, one hopes, right? Like that would be one way. And but
Sinning
then
as natural hair dye.
But then what does that mean about Kris and his beard? I'm so
My beard
curious.
is too perfect for sin.
It's too perfect for sin, or it's soaked with the blood of your enemies. I don't know.
That's the one. Let's go with that. I'm, big, tall, broad, half European Viking. Let's go with that.
Yeah. I mean, why not? Just for fun. Can't we have a little bit of bloodlust just for fun?
Just as a treat, you know?
We'll get some for the table, you know?
We'll get one for the table.
We'll just get a little bit of... We'll just order a little bit of bloodlust for the table. I'm not driving. But yeah, so we're here to talk about a lot of things. Where do we have a bunch of stuff that we're talking about. Where do we want to start?
I think we should let you start with Disgaea because I know you've wanted to talk about Disgaea forever. So
let's
talk about Disgaea.
It's very true. It's very true. All right, so let's start. Let's start with the new hotness. I have been playing Disgaea on the Switch. PC keys have, I guess, not gone out, or they just kept me with the Switch one because that was the one that was available first. Let me actually check my hours real quick.
I think the game is now available as of today.
It is.
I think,
it is
general use.
It is out right now. So
I'll pick it up after the show. Yeah.
There is. I mean, you don't know what I'm going to say about it. It could be bad. You don't know.
Spoiler alert.
I'll pick it up.
I have heard Brian talk about this game. It's not, unless he specifically and very deliberately changed his mind. It's not that.
So I am 62 hours into this game right now. And I have, as they say, rolled credits. I've beaten the game. And I am into the post-game. I am into, for longtime fans of the Disgaea series, I am, I guess, 2 worlds into the Carnage dimension. But one thing that I will say is, like Disgaea 6, Disgaea 7 plays things a little bit more truncated. So I'll give you an abbreviated history of the series and how it's kind of expanded. One of the things that the Disgaea games are well known for, at least to me, this is one of those things where like this series is niche enough that there's not that many people out there who are like content experts in it. Like if you search for Disgaea tips or guides or stuff like that on YouTube, there's basically like one guy who does it. And he was actually somebody that our mutual friend Kai and I were going head to head with in the leaderboards in the game pre-release in the new ranked battles. So now if you're into competing and seeing if you can program your demonic intelligence, like auto battling squads up against, like if you want to pit those against somebody else, you got ranked battles, baby. So you can do that. But when the game first came out on PlayStation 2, and it was Disgaea, I think Hour of Darkness, and then there was a PSP version that was Afternoon of Darkness and all that sort of stuff. But
I can't see my copy from this angle.
Yeah, so throughout, when the second game came out, they added like an entirely like new thing. Like I forget whether if they only added the Carnage dimension if Disgaea 3 or if that was actually in 2. Anyways, but as each game came out, they would add like entirely new things. Like they added the character world where they were new series of levels that you could go through, and then at the end you would get like, oh, your character can get the ability to move one square further, or they could throw one square further, or they would have more counterattacks. And like they just kept adding new ways and avenues and like functionality for you to be able to, oh, hey, look at this. Look at this. I have a delightful sandwich brought in by my wonderful wife. Get Jake out of here.
Mazel tov.
So throughout the game's history, each game in the series has added more really robust stuff. The game has always been endlessly playable because of things like the item world, where you can basically go inside of an item. What is it? The Incredible Journey style, I guess, or no, not the. What is it? The Incredible Voyage. There it is. When they shrink the guy down, they shrink the scientific team down and inject them in a guy so that they can do like some sort of surgery on him. It's weird, but these are the sort of things that you come to me for. These wonderful references.
Fantastic Voyage.
Fantastic Voyage. There you go.
All right, I also have this level of B movie science fiction knowledge.
You love to see it.
It's been used and parodied in so many things, because you say that and just think, I remember that Futurama episode, but you know.
Yeah, I've seen the original movie. It was fun. I think they actually don't they inject them into like Martin Short?
Something like that. I remember that we had when I was at Disney, we had a ride called Body Wars that was basically that, which is no longer open. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It really has been in so many things as a concept.
I mean, it's a fun idea. You can do a lot with it. So basically, the item world is that, but for your items. So like, imagine you level up, you level up on stages. Your characters get more powerful. But what if you could go inside of your sword and then make your sword more powerful? And that's what the item world is, and that's been in there since Disgaea 1. And
it gets extensive, really extensive.
You can do 100 levels in a row and then defeat the item god and steal another version of your weapon or a higher version, like the next rank up. Like there are 41 ranks of items. So like you start off with like a crappy sword and then you get, and then you get to the top and it's like Yoshitsuna or like Ball's sword, which is like the ultimate enemy and stuff like that. But anyways, that's
you have to
getting
get the
into
Infinity Sword and the Infinity +1 sword.
Yeah, that's getting into the nitty gritty. But the idea is that systems like that and that extensive have been added in basically every version of this game, where you would have, okay, you played through the entire story with all the stages. Now we're adding the Carnage dimension, which is each of those stages, but with way more powerful enemies. And in like different mix-ups with different enemy types, with different like geo panels and like modifiers that are on the different places where you can go. Tons of that sort of stuff. So they just keep adding and adding and adding and adding until you get to Disgaea 5. Disgaea 5 is the most complex that the game has ever been because it's got the item world, it's got the character world, it's got the Carnage dimension, it's got like extra stuff after that. And so for a lot of people, Disgaea 5 is their favorite.
Disgaea 5 is incredible if you really want to just go for it.
You can do whatever you want. It's pretty crazy. For strategy fans, like I don't think that there's anything that even comes close to that as far as like just a complete package and like forever gameness. Like I can't think of anything.
Yeah, nothing comes to mind.
Unless it would be like modded versions of FFT or something. But like this is just out of the box, like ridiculous. Like literally hundreds of hours of content in here if you want it, and like literally infinite if you want it. But Disgaea 6 pared it down. So I actually reviewed Disgaea 6 when it came out for this show, and it pared things down to the extreme. And then it added the auto battle system where you could set up like intricate if-then statements of like, if there are enemies present, go towards the enemy, go one panel away, or go to the furthest available attack range, and then use a normal attack, a special attack, or a like specific attack, or lift them and throw them somewhere. So you could set up crazy intricate stuff to let you like automatically farm levels. Well,
set your gambit.
Yeah, it was gambits basically, and it was unlimited. You could do as much as you wanted. And people pushed back on that. My big criticism for Disgaea 6 wasn't that was a thing, although I didn't like that there basically wasn't any incentive for not doing that. Because at a certain point, once you've got your demonic intelligence systems set up, you could just go into a brand new level and then just do it, and then you don't have to play the game, kind of. Even when you're playing through the story.
The game plays itself, why bother?
Yeah. And so there was that, and I thought that Disgaea 6 had a really weak story and really weak characters. I did not resonate with them nearly as much. For reference, my favorite entries in the series are 1, 4, and 5.
Which is the general consensus, I think, for a lot of people. I'm the same.
Yeah, I think that when we were talking to the PR director over at NIS at PAX, he was saying that the common answer is 5. I think that 4 hits everything for me. It doesn't have all the gameplay systems that I like that 5 has, but I feel like the cast of characters is well above, and I feel like the story is actually also quite good. Oh, thank you. Gotcha.
But yeah, I think the general consensus is that 5 is like mechanically the most dense, complete, has the most options or whatever, but a lot of people prefer either the characters or story of 1 or 4, which is where I'm exactly at. It's like the characters and cast and story didn't resonate for me in 5 as much, but it's hard to go back to others after you dabbled in it. Yeah. It's like, damn, these systems are good and this feels good to play.
Yeah.
Whereas, and you go back, and I went back to, 4, and it's like, I love these characters the most.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Another move in 6 is that they went from sprites to 3D models, which I actually didn't mind. I think that
that was always going to be the big point of contention for a lot of people, and it was. I get it, but it's like you got to make it look good, and it's probably not gonna. So,
but also,
it's not going to be a deal breaker for me. But like, you got to have something else.
Yeah, and I will say, one thing that I think NIS does extremely well is get their 3D models to translate the look and feel and kind of personality of their previous sprite work. It doesn't have all of the flash and stuff. Like, if you want to see a great animation from 2D Disgaea, look up Adele, Adell, and then like I think it's like Vulcan Blaze or whatever. Like, it's his ultimate fire special ability that he gets. He does this huge combo, kicks the person all over the place, and then like runs past them, and then does this, and his tie like flaps in the breeze while they explode behind him. It's sick as hell. It's awesome. Also, fun fact:
some real good art.
Disgaea 7's director used to be one of the main programmers for the series, or the main programmer for the series, and his favorite Disgaea game is Disgaea 2. Which is a very respectable pick, because I think that might have my favorite twist in the series, other than maybe the twist from 1. But anyways, all that to say, I think that as far as characters and story are concerned, I think that Disgaea 7 is in the upper echelons. I don't think it overtakes 1 or 4 for me. I think that I would probably put it a little bit below 5 as far as story and characters. I like them a lot. One of the interesting choices that they made was they went to focus on, like, it's a very, very Japanese setting, and that's the point of the story, is about Bushido and Hinamoto, that specific netherworld, and about, honor and how that compares and contrasts with being a demon, which almost all of the characters are, as is standard in Disgaea. Like, these games are set in hell.
The style of the time.
Yeah, these games are set in hell, and you play demons, but like Earth and Heaven, which is called Celestia, also exist, and so those forces can kind of like come in and out of the story as you please. But I think that while I like the setting, and I think that the story does kind of pick up steam a little bit later on, and I did enjoy it. Like, it's not utterly forgettable the way that 6's was, where it's just like, I don't even really remember what the heck was going on with it. Like, I remember, but it's like, it's popcorn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And while I did not get, the same, stuff, I even really like, Killia and Killia's story from Disgaea 5. Like, I don't think that's a bad story. I just think that
yeah, I just don't find it as memorable as, Salvatore is.
Yeah. Or Laharl. Like, I mean, that story,
especially Laharl,
I still think that Disgaea 1 beat for beat has the best story in the series. But I think that 7 is probably like in that 4th place thing. I still like it better than 2, 3, and 6 for sure. But I think that it also addresses a lot of the criticism from 6, which was their stated goal. So now when you set up your demonic intelligence, you can still do that, but it uses a resource, and it uses a resource called Poltergas, and you get 1 every time you beat a stage manually. Each time you play through a stage and beat it, you get 1. And that will let you, 1 round of gas will let you do 1 round of automated battling. So there are also quests that you can do where you'll get like 10 gas or 5 or something like that. They're not super plentiful, and you have to do specific things to do them. I don't know that they are like super repeatable yet, but since you can, like, I capped them today. There's a cap of 300. So I actually got to the point where like I actually need to go do some auto battling to burn off the gas so that I can like earn more. But it's great for leveling. Like once you get to a level stage where it's just like run towards the enemy, do a big 3x3 attack, and then repeat. And once you've actually beaten it with auto battle, it'll come out to the main menu and then say, do you want to repeat that some number of times? And then you can just say, do that 1 time more, do that 10 times more, do that 300 times more. And then it'll just pop up with a little loading screen where there's a printy like, please wait. And then it'll come up with all of your rewards afterwards.
Okay, that's good.
Which is really, really cool and lets you grind up a lot of experience if you want to save time doing it that way. It is also like very therapeutic and soothing to just grind, like go out, put your people all in position, do your stuff. Like that's part of the charm of Disgaea. You know,
always
when it gets,
been, yeah.
and it always has
That's
been.
why the appeal of the game is, or part of the appeal of the game is that the numbers are just ridiculous. That's the selling point. It's like, yeah, level 99, whatever. We go to 5 digits.
Yeah. Which in Disgaea 6, the level cap was raised to, I think, 9,999,999.
I think something like that, yeah.
They brought the cap back down to the classic 9,999. So
which is more reasonable. Beyond that, it's just like, what's even the point? You know, you either get so many that it just each level becomes meaningless, or so few that it's like, well, why does the number even go that high? It's unnecessary to go that.
I feel like the reason that they made that decision was to complement the auto battle system, because since you could just have your Switch or whatever running the game, going through battles endless amounts of time, and you didn't even have to pay attention to it, there was nothing to stop you from just doing that. I mean, I 100%ed Disgaea 6 because of that system. I didn't have tons of time, but it still let me get grinding going whenever I like had spare time. I just had my Switch with me and I was just running the game all the time. And I don't hate that. Like, I was not as down on Disgaea 6 as other people were, particularly for its systems, but the story is where I think it whiffed the worst for me. But Disgaea 7 has that system in place, but it goes back to more classical kind of philosophies. So
it sounds like a better halfway point. Like you still get the advantage of the grind if you set it up and do all that, but you still have to actually play the game. And the fact that it just becomes, a little loading screen and it just calculates, it's like, that's so much better.
Yeah.
Great.
And I think that one of the other interesting things is I think it less than splits the difference. Like, I feel like it corrects to like a 75-25 split between like Disgaea 2 era, Disgaea 3 era Disgaea, and Disgaea 6. Like, it's still, there's no character world, there's none of that sort of stuff. It's just, you can go into the main world, you can go into the Carnage dimension, you can do like the item world. This game adds item reincarnation. So when you hit max level in Disgaea games, you can reincarnate. And that will store a percentage of the stats that you gained that you had at max level and give those back to you. So then you can keep reincarnating and just become stronger and stronger and stronger. There is a stat cap, of course. And you can also, when you reincarnate, you'll get like more rewards for the equipment. Like you'll get a higher percentage of gain from wearing certain types of equipment and things. That's always been here, but now you can do that with items as well. So you can max out an item and then reincarnate it. And you can even reincarnate it into another item and keep some of its properties. And Disgaea fans out there here will know what I'm talking about when I say this, but if this just blows right over your head, then don't worry about it. This is something that you can get into, but you can also totally ignore it and still beat the game.
Yeah, you almost never need to engage with this level of system to just finish the story the first time through.
And you literally don't like you can ignore literally all of this. You can just take your main character. You can beat the game with one character if you want to. Like you just do it. You can play your way. That's one of the best things about Disgaea is you can engage with these systems to the amount that you want. And if not, then don't worry about it. But innocents are back, but they seem way more focused. But items also now have properties which are separate from innocents. And these properties can be unique based on the type of weapon, and you can also reincarnate and transfer those to whatever item you reincarnate it into. So if there's a specific type of sword where it's like, it's an ice sword, and the property is it turns your normal type of damage into ice damage. If you reincarnate that into a gun, you can keep that. So you can have a gun that shoots like ice bullets or whatever.
Nice.
And that's pretty cool. Which is good because damage absorption is way more important this time around. There were people that I was like around the same level as or even higher level than where my stats were better than them, but they had like a high amount of like damage resist and it just didn't even get past their absorption to do any damage at all.
So you got to make use of elemental weaknesses and such.
Yeah, I mean, if you're leaning into that sort of a thing, like, so if you're having a witch, like that sort of thing is more important, but it's also easier to manage because these systems are still pretty simple. So I think what they've done is I think they've done a really good job balancing the difference between classic Disgaea and modern Disgaea, which makes this, I think, a really great place for newcomers to jump in. I know they were trying to do that with the last one, but I think that this one
overcorrected and then the fans were left wanting.
Yeah. And I think that as a result, this is going to be a great place to jump in, particularly because, well, I think tonally and from a kind of substance point of view, it's actually not the great place for newcomers to jump in that I would have wanted, because I think leaning so far into the Japanese cultural thing actually takes away some of what made Disgaea, because Disgaea is a Japanese game to be sure, but it didn't feel Japanese. It felt like totally unique and its own thing.
Yeah.
Like the Netherworld and Earth and Celestia in Disgaea 1 feels like a really weird place. And it doesn't really feel like that now. So I feel like there are some games where like those are like, and I feel like that's probably why Disgaea 1 and Disgaea 4 kind of stand out from a story standpoint, because I think those two really embrace this is hell, that is heaven, this is earth. There's something going on between all three of these realms. And I feel like when Disgaea games kind of ignore that balance, it doesn't really feel right. And I feel like there are also multiple netherworlds, but that was like the point of Disgaea 5, which is why I feel like that game kind of got away with it. Whereas like I feel in this game, I'm less persuaded by it, I suppose. But I feel like the characters are good. It's very tropey, which is a thing with Disgaea, but it feels like it's maybe more of a thing with this game. And I think that some of the
one thing, but they usually lean into it and have fun with it and still be pretty funny about it. Like the humor is usually a strong point in the series.
And the humor is still here, like with this game. Like they're still poking fun. The second main character, her main thing is she's really into Japanese culture. She is really enthusiastic and bubbly and believes the best in people. And she always tries to use like pithy sayings, but she always gets them wrong. Like commonly used sayings, but she says something that like rhymes with them and then other characters correct her. So it's, sometimes it can be like, wait, what the hell was she trying to say? Like, I don't even know. But sometimes it's like, okay, I know what you're saying. But yeah, I like it. Also, there are some new systems in addition that I have not mentioned yet that were added that I think are really, really cool. So when you heal at the hospital, when you get damaged during missions, your health doesn't regenerate after the mission unless you have like some equipable ability that has it do that. You go back to the hospital and then you pay some of your currency that you make to heal your troops. That is exactly the same as it's always been. However, in previous games, you would get, once you earned a certain amount, they would give you like a point amount based on how much you were spending. And they would give you a one-time bonus. And once you maxed out those one-time bonuses, the end one would be like a great item that you can equip that would give you huge bonuses to all of your stats. Like, it was awesome. But once you did that, you were kind of done and you still had to heal at the hospital. With this game, they've introduced the hospital gotcha, and I fucking love it. It's so good. So basically what it does is there's a different tiered system. So every time you heal, you get a certain amount of RP. You redeem those RP to do spins of the gotcha system. And then those will spit out items at whatever level that rank is. Once you, it'll also give you like 6 items that once you obtain them, you can claim like the big reward, and it'll be like a big stat boosting item. Then once you've done that, it'll unlock the next level, which costs a little bit more, but the item rewards are better. So you'll start out and it's like, easy, medium, hard, and then like Demon Lord, Overlord, Super Overlord, Ultra Overlord. And by the end, you're spending like millions for each pull at the gotcha machine. But the items get fucking outrageous and ridiculous. Like I was routinely getting the best items I was getting out of this. And I was getting lots of them. So it just throws awesome shit at you. And it's awesome.
Seems like a much better system, yeah. And
it's
just
really
not something that's just one off and then cool, you're done, but you're still coming back here because you got off.
And the great thing is you can just keep doing that as long as you want, and then you can set up, I want stuff to auto sell if it's not legendary, or if it's not rare, or if it's not above a certain level, or something like that. So like you can really customize this. There's also the return of the cheat shop, where you can be like, okay, I want to turn off my mana gain and my class experience and my weapon skill experience, and I just want to have level as fast as possible. So I'm going to put 700% in EXP, and you could just modify all of those stats so that you can do whatever it is that you want. You know, you can increase the stars up to 20-star difficulty to like scale the challenge to just exactly where you want it, which is great. And I feel like the level design is also better in this game than it was in Disgaea 6. There were some levels where I was legitimately like, what am I going to do about this? You know, there's always a way to like muscle your way through, but there were some that definitely made me stop and think, you know.
Does it still have an assembly-esque system? Or?
Yes, absolutely. The Dark Assembly is back.
Cool.
And it is pretty simple to use. It seems like there are fewer like extraneous bills that you need to pass in order to, add, previously in Disgaea 5, you would have to go into the character world to get extra movement and stuff like this. Here, you just kill a couple of enemies, get enough mana to pass a bill, and your movement goes up by 1 or whatever. And
you might just have to bribe a few people to make it happen.
You might have to bribe a few people. If it doesn't work, you can pay, an exorbitant amount of money to just auto pass it. Or you can fight and say, you know what? I can beat up these senators and get my way anyway. And you can just do it. Man, don't you wish that there was a way to do that in the real world?
The system works.
But let's see.
Sounds like a good time overall.
Oh, yeah. They also have, and Will and I experienced this, although it didn't really have any consequence in the build that we played at PAX, but they've taken away the bonus gauge at the end of stages. So what used to happen was you would attack enemies, and if you had like a long combo chain, it would rack up the bonus gauge. And if you got it all the way up to 9, you would get that stage's like unique, maybe legendary bonus. Now, and then like once you got that, that was it. So the game now seems to be about repetition and supporting repetition with more rewards. So now there will be like little micro goals. There'll be like 5 or 6 little micro goals for the stage, which is like complete it in fewer than 6 turns. And that will get you a specific reward. Deploy only men. Deploy only monsters. Deploy only, these sorts of things. Beat this level without throwing anyone. Beat this level and completely clear all of the geo panels. Stuff like that. And those are there on every stage. And those are also there in the item world. And in the item world, they give you like plus to levels, which is like the best bonus that you could get because that gives you more stats on your item. I'm getting a little bit into the nitty gritty, but I did think that was an interesting change. And I feel like, on one hand, I like that it gives you repeatable bonuses where you can go to a single stage and keep earning more stuff as you play through it. But conversely, it gives you less of a reward for queuing up multiple attacks at the time, which was always like the way that it would be. Like you would set up chain attacks and stuff like that previously. Another thing that's like a kind of annoying thing is the camera angle seems off. There are like 5 different camera angles, but I can't find one that lets me kind of parse the stages in the way that like makes sense to me and also lets me see the characters' faces and stuff like that. There's one where I can choose one for either. That's good for that, but I can't. There's not like in previous games there was like one camera angle where I was like, good. It's a little bit zoomed out. It's a little bit angled up so I can see more of the landscape, but I can still see all my characters. And it seems like maybe I'm just totally tripping and it's the same, but it feels a little bit different. And then there's also
going to go 3D. It should really have free camera at this point.
Yeah.
Because getting the right angle on such, it's really hard to. Yeah, I remember in older games because it's always just 90-degree angles of camera. It's like you constantly got to swivel it around and try and pass in between as it goes. It's like where am I going?
Now you can get it if you click into the right stick. You can get it straight up and down, which looks super weird as somebody who's played it at like the 90-degree or the 45-degree angle for like forever.
Like Fire Emblem all of a sudden. What the hell is this?
Yeah, super weird. They also added something called Netherworld Sightseeing, which is there are 15 chapters in the game, and each of them takes place in like a different location. And if you hit square, if you hit square on your controller or Y or whatever, while you're hovering over that chapter, you can actually go into that location and like wander around and find other activities to do and talk to other people and recruit new allies of a different class to get like bonus colors and all this sort of shit. So there is like cool stuff like that you can do, including like shogi, like demon shogi, where you are setting, it is auto battle only, and it's with preset units with preset abilities and equipment. So you see if you can solve the puzzle of that level by like modifying their kind of commands that they'll carry out automatically. So
you triggered me right in the Yakuza.
But yeah, so overall, I think it is quite good. I think that if you have been looking for a place to get into Disgaea, this is a good one, particularly if you are into Japanese culture. Also, I think that will either
Disgaea for weeb.
That will either give it, which is ridiculous. So that will either spend more or less for you, depending on how you view that sort of stuff. I dig it. I am not stopping playing this game anytime soon. It is delaying my return to Baldur's Gate 3, and I kind of don't mind because, Disgaea has been comfort food for me for like ever since the first game came out when I was like, man, I don't even know. Yeah, I was in college, but I was early in college. When I first got it. And it took some fucking doing, because trying to find niche games back then on the PS2 was not easy.
It didn't get a release here for the longest time. So, yeah I know exactly the feeling.
But
back in the era when a lot of games both either didn't get localized and then didn't get localized to PAL regions.
Yeah.
And then even if they did, they didn't get shipped to Australia. So I had to buy from Europe all the time.
I know how that is. Man, when I lived in Singapore, trying to get music was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the new...
You would understand.
I couldn't get Blink-182's Enema of the State until I went to Australia. But
we were at least a little better about the music, so we had that going for it.
And I didn't realize that I was watching the censored version of The Matrix for literally like over a decade. Because I bought it in Singapore. And so I watched like the full version like, I don't know, like 15 years ago or something like that. And I was like, wait, what the heck is this scene? I've never seen this scene before. Because it just wasn't in my version. But
I was the same with Return of the Jedi for a while, but that wasn't censoring. That was just, it was a recording on a VHS and it missed the scene. So.
Yeah, those commercials. Wait a second. There's not like a commercial where Ronald McDonald is like helping a bunch of kids throw snowballs at each other as they ice skate on this lake outside of a McDonald's? That's weird.
Like that, no.
That's straight up on, I think, my VHS of The Princess Bride or something. It's like wild. But anyways, so I know that I got really deep into the nitty gritty, but I put up a review on Backlogged as soon as the embargo lifted. We don't really give scores here, but I would give this a thumbs up. This is definitely one of my... This is... Oh, no. I did 2 thumbs up. Oh, no. I got to edit my copy. But yeah, so this is definitely one of my favorite games of the year. This definitely goes into the fucking ridiculous conversation that we're going to have in January. Because this is a contender for me. So...
Too many games.
Stop
video games. Let me catch up. Stop the video games.
Stop the video games. I want to get off.
Well, we have 3 Yakuza / Like a Dragon games in the span of 12 months. What the hell
Bro,
are you doing,
I am absolutely unbelievably excited for Gaiden.
So am I, but goddamn.
Yeah, so, I know, but also, like, I need to sleep. Like, come on,
yeah.
man.
So, I know that I talked about a lot of stuff. Were there any questions that you guys had or anything that you... Oh, I didn't even fucking... Jesus Christ. I didn't even talk about hell mode or jumbifying. So Will has experienced jumbify or like jumbilities. So
big. Character get big.
Big.
They introduced that in 5,
Will,
didn't they? Or did they go even bigger?
No, this is
This is brand new. This is
even more biggerer than that. Like before, yeah, in 5, man, I forgot that they did that because of Red Magnus, like became huge.
Yeah. The whole gimmick was he got big. It's like, cool. Now everybody can get big. Okay, cool. But no, this is even bigger.
But now they are so big that they can't even be on the stage. So they're just standing next to it. Like kaijus. And you can have kaiju battles.
Sick.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Any game is improved by the addition of kaiju battles.
It's true. It really is true.
It is. And I really need to use it more often. I like it. It's a cool system. Yeah, I played it basically kind of straight up and down like a regular thing. I jumpified sometimes, but I definitely leaned back on my roots way more often than I probably should have. But there's also Hell Mode, which is very, very similar to Revenge Mode from Disgaea 5, which is something cool that they took out in the last game that they added back with this one. And those for the core characters, that ability gets upgraded just like Revenge Mode did in Disgaea 5 as you reach like important story beats. So this will be like a personal gauge where their meter will fill up and then you activate Hell Mode. And then for the main character, it's that he ignores your defense. So even if an attack is like, even if a target is really sturdy, he does a lot more damage to them when he's in Hell Mode. And you can combine those two things. But as you are... jumbified, you can do huge, like, man, I want to say it's like 5x5 square damage or 6x6 square damage. And you just...
It is a big area.
It's enormous. And then you can do God, I forget what it was called, like Gigantor attacks or something, where like you attack another jumbified target for a lot of damage. So that's also a huge thing. And So there's that's also all over the place, which I think is fun, but also something that I forgot about, even though they very pointedly remind you with a glowing menu thing. But I'm like, yeah, later. I'm in the middle of a fight. But I wanted to make sure that I answered any questions that you guys had, both from Kris as somebody who has played the series, and from Will, who has played a little bit of the preview, but has not actually played the series. So
I have no questions. I just want to play it. I just want to play it.
I think I'm at the same point. I asked a couple throughout, like the assembly one, and that's you've answered the bulk of it. I'm sure I'll get into it and see how it goes.
Yeah, cool. Well, there it is. Disgaea 7.
It is a Disgaea game.
One of the games of the year, and one of the best games of the year, I would say.
One of the Disgaeas of all time.
One of the Disgaeas. Yeah. One of the 7 Disgaeas of all time.
All right, somebody else talk so I can eat my sandwich that is now brutally cold.
Shoot it over to you, Will,
Okay, I guess I will start off by talking about Mortal Kombat 1, which I've been playing a lot of. And I reviewed it for the loadout, so if you want my full, unabridged 3,000 words of Mortal Kombat thoughts, go there and read it. But I thought it was pretty good. So if you've never played Mortal Kombat 1 is a full-on, reboot of the entire chronology, not like Mortal Kombat 9, which is we're just going to go back to the beginning. No, this is completely different. Characters have completely different backstories. Certain characters are played by...
They literally reset the universe. The god.
Yeah, they literally rebuilt the universe. Liu Kang is the god of fire. And it allows them to do something really cool with the mythology, while also very much being a sequel to MK11. I don't want to spoil it in any way, but if you've played MK11, you know how it ends. Some of that stuff comes back. And I think it's good. I am a little bit mixed on certain aspects of it because I think there's a lot of stuff to really like. I think the characters feel really good. I love the fact that they added air combos. The big thing is the cameos, which you call in another MK character to come and help you. So if you're playing, I play Johnny Cage. If you're playing Johnny, you can call in Kano to come help you, or Frost, or Sonya, or another version of Scorpion. And it allows you to do some really neat stuff. So if your character, doesn't have a projectile, you can give them a projectile. You can give them a mobility option. You can give them a cool combo extender. It allows you to do some really cool stuff and very interesting things, and customize your characters in a way that kind of the variant system from the old games, where you chose a variant of I want a variant of Scorpion that does this, right? Or I want a variant of Shang Tsung that does this thing with these special moves. You kind of get that, but you're not for me, it was always just, I want to play Scorpion. I just want to play, my character. I don't want to play, I don't want to choose which special moves I have. I just want to play the character. So this kind of solves that problem by making the characters feel complete, and then also giving you a ton of customization with the cameos. Who do you want? What are you going to use them for? So the combat feels probably as good as Mortal Kombat has ever felt. It's got some great feeling combos. It feels really good to play. It's a little less stiff than Mortal Kombat has been in the past. It looks amazing. The story mode is fantastic, but it also has some problems. It has the online is a little bit wonky. There's really no way to do certain things that you would expect in a fighting game. Most fighting games, you can go into training mode and you can queue for a match in ranked. You can't do that in MK1, which is bizarre because almost every other fighting game
that's been a staple for so long at this point. We know that's what you do.
Yeah. So you can do that in just the games that have come out recently. You can do that in Strive. You can do that in Street Fighter 6. You can do that in basically every game for the last several years. You cannot do that in Mortal Kombat 1. There is no way to make a room with multiple battle slots. You just have one. The rollback feels a little bit iffy at points, and just the connection to the servers. The servers have been having issues over the last few days. There were some bugs. They're almost fixed most of the bugs that were a problem, but it feels a little rushed in terms of some of the stuff that you would expect to be there and isn't there, which is a shame because the actual playing it part is quite good. The other thing that I think I'm kind of iffy on is invasions, which is what replaces Crypt this time around. So if you've played Mortal Kombat before, the Crypt is where you go to unlock stuff. In MK11, it's this big thing where you can go and explore and solve puzzles and do all this stuff and get stuff.
Cool, yeah.
It's very cool, and that is not here in MK1. It's been replaced by something called invasions. And so invasions are basically the idea being that characters from different timelines are coming in and you have to go fight them. So you go to different areas in the Mortal Kombat universe, and it's similar to kind of a board game. You move your character around the board and you do fights. So if you've played like Soul Calibur 3, it's like that. Dragon Ball FighterZ has kind of a similar thing in its story mode, Brian, where you just move from square to square and you do fights.
Dissidia even.
Yeah, Dissidia, also a good example. But what I don't like about it is it takes and this is also partially because I've been doing the IGN guide for the invasions. There's a lot of fights. And it doesn't always feel like NetherRealm was doing very interesting things with them, because I've been doing like the same combo on every character. And it's like, I just need you to block high. Like this should just block high one time. So it can get a little repetitive, and some of the things are kind of annoying because it's like, oh, there's smoke on this stage. Your character is inhaling smoke and will stop to cough like every 3 seconds. And it's like, cool, whatever I was doing just stops so my character can cough. Or like sometimes the screen will go completely black and you can't see what you're doing. And it's not really fun to play a fighting game that way. Because you want to play the game, right? Like you don't want to deal with like all these things. So I respect that they've tried to make like an RPG that people who are maybe not into fighting games can go play and like have a good time. But it also just doesn't work all the time. And part of me wishes it was more like, the most fun MK1 is when you're doing like MK1 things, when you're just playing the game. So I'm a little mixed on it.
That sucks that their modifiers are like really annoying, inconvenient things instead of what Dragon Ball FighterZ did with their like crazy battles. I forget what it's called, but it's whatever's on the stand in the middle of the game. You can queue up for stuff, and it's like no matter how long your combo is, every time you hit down to the ground, you bounce up and then you can be comboed again. Or like gravity is like way less, so your jumps are huge. Like they could have been positive modifiers instead of like really annoying ones.
Yeah, and there are some like really fun modifiers. Some of them are like, oh, like it's raining blood in this stage the whole time, and that's kind of goofy, and like that has a status effect. Or in this one, there's going to be like demons that fly up in the air. So if you do your combo at the right time, you can hit the other character into the demon and then continue your combo. So there's some neat ones. It's not all bad, but it just kind of goes into the fact that like Invasions takes a really long time, and you have to play a lot of fights. And at a certain point, it's just like, this character has armor, which means everything is way more annoying, right? And I like that they put, like characters have like kind of like Pokemon, like they have types, right? You have like, fire and ice and magic and whatever else, and they have weaknesses and strengths, and they're good against certain other characters. So you get a kind of incentive to use all the different characters, and you have like relics that you can equip. They give you stat bonuses, and you have talismans that allow you to cast like certain special spells. Like one of them, I could call down a big laser in the middle of the stage. Those are kind of neat. But it feels a little bit like too long, and that there's not quite enough to it. I think for most people who are not going to have to run through the entire thing in a couple of days, it'll be a little bit more fun if you can play it in like staggered chunks. Like I'll go play 5 spaces today, right, or whatever. But it does get a little old, and I kind of wish the Crypt was here instead of Invasions. But one thing I will say for MK, which has kind of been a bummer, especially in Street Fighter, is like they're very generous with alternate colors and alternate costumes that you do not have to pay money for. You just play Invasions, you level your characters up, you get new stuff, you get new fatalities, you get new brutalities. The game is constantly throwing rewards at you, which I do like. So
that's good. 11 kind of had like a bit of a grind to it, I feel. Like the initial complaint was that there's so many currencies that it felt like really grindy in order to unlock all this stuff, and everyone was just like, any moment now, the microtransactions are coming in. It's like, skip the grind. And it never did, to their credit. But a lot of people were holding off. It's like, it's coming. No? Okay, then it's just badly designed. Cool.
Yeah. There are microtransactions in this game. They don't feel particularly bad, to be honest with you. Like, you can get premium currency just from leveling up your characters and playing. Each character has something that's basically a battle pass that is free. You don't have to pay into it. You just play them, and they level up, and you get stuff. So you get new costumes, you get a new fatality, you get a new brutality, you get something for like your player card. And I like that. It gives you like, an impetus to play the character or try different characters out in Invasions. And like I said, while there are microtransactions, like they're pretty reasonably priced, and you can get the premium currency for just playing the game. And even if you don't want to pay any money ever, like there's a ton of stuff for you to unlock. just by playing, right? Just by like doing the seasonal content and the invasions, or just by leveling your character up. So I like that they've been really generous with it. There's also like a shrine that you can pay like your in-game currency to unlock more stuff at random. So similar to like Guilty Gear's fishing system. But yeah, I don't know. I think the disappointing thing about MK1 is that like the story mode is fantastic, maybe like the best story mode that MK has ever had, which is, they do a really good job on those at NetherRealm. So like very high praise there.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the fighting feels great. There are some bugs that they've mostly fixed. Like there was a bug where like player 2 would drop combos that player 1 wouldn't, because like they wouldn't get bounced aside. It was really weird. But that is fixed. So it's great to play. It just feels like some of the stuff around the playing it aspect is maybe not where it should be, and the game feels a little bit rushed in that sense. So overall, not to keep us here for forever talking about Mortal Kombat, but MK1, a lot of fun. Feels great to play. The story mode is fantastic. If you want single player stuff, the invasions are there. I think it can be fun in smaller doses than what I've had to play it in, but I just wish that some of the surrounding stuff was better, right? Like I wish we could matchmake in training mode, stuff like that. So, but if you wanted a Mortal Kombat game that plays really well, MK1 definitely does that. I would recommend it. Just be aware that it does have some it doesn't have stuff that you would think a fighting game would have, and maybe they'll patch that in. But as of right now, it's not there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the running theory for a lot of people, myself included, was that this was not the game they were intending to make, given that there was usual, how it's always gone with NetherRealm is that they'll do a Mortal Kombat, 2 years later they'll do like an Injustice, then 2 years later they'll do another Mortal Kombat. This time it's kind of like they went 3 years, nothing happened, and then another Mortal Kombat. It's like, there was probably going to be another game in here somewhere.
Injustice 3.
And there's been rumors about, Injustice 3 or some kind of like another attempt at like MK versus DC, something like that. Nothing seems to have panned out, so we're back to Mortal Kombat. And it's like, parts of that, as a result, this one feels kind of rushed. It's probably like, yeah, they were probably trying to do something else first, did something or did this.
And also Warner Brothers has been in turmoil. Like they've been selling off a bunch of stuff. They've been writing off a bunch of stuff. There was some scuttlebutt around the industry of whether WB was going to get bought or just sell off all of its gaming stuff altogether. So I definitely understand if like some of that had, contributed, but also like NetherRealm has kind of notoriously been just doing their stuff. And
they're a pretty staple earner for Warner Brothers as a result, because I think
they might
realize just how big Mortal Kombat is.
Yeah,
the highest selling fighting game franchise of all time, and yes, that includes Smash,
which is crazy when you think of how much of a phenomenon Smash is.
Yeah,
and
nobody thinks of that in the FGC because Mortal Kombat isn't as robust as like Street Fighter or anything like that. But like, we're not the mainstream here. Most people go, "Ooh, big fatalities," and "Ooh, controversy from the '90s," and carried over. And it's like these are known aspect.
And when you think of like the archetypical fighting game, like most people would probably think of Street Fighter and not Mortal Kombat as well. So like, but Mortal Kombat's there. Even though it was gone for a while before it came back in like 2009. It was gone for a while and it's still crushing it. So
yeah. MK11 sold like, I want to say 15 million copies.
Yeah.
So these games move boxes.
Bonkers compared to how much, the rest, like we think again, Street Fighter 6 is amazing. It's really freaking good. It's probably the benchmark of fighting games. It's sold like 3 million units? By contrast,
so far, 2 or 3 million. Yeah,
DBFZ is considered a powerful success, and it's between 8 and 9 million right now.
Yeah,
so
it's not even a big seller for Capcom. Like Monster Hunter ships like 15 million per. It's crazy. So yeah.
So it's a little bit weird to see like that MK doesn't have this stuff, and it's probably not NetherRealm's fault. Like I don't want to come off overly negative. I do think it's a good game. I do recommend it if you like MK. I'm having a lot of good fun with it, and a lot of people I know are having a lot of fun with it. It's just, it feels weird to be like it doesn't have this thing. So,
also, I'm still waiting for, and I'm just gonna say it every time we talk about this. I'm still waiting for a gore toggle. I want to play these games. I want to play these games with my friends, but the graphics are so realistic that when I look at some of these things, some of these fatalities and stuff that are happening, or like X-ray attacks and stuff, I don't like it. And I just want to have an option to not see that shit. So, and I know that Will, we even DM'd about this, because you were telling me about some of your own like feelings about that. But
yeah, it's there are some fatalities in MK1 that are pretty over the top in a way that I find a little bit uncomfortable. I don't get squeamish playing video games. There are a couple where I was like, whoa, I don't know about that one. Where I had to record some footage.
They crossed the boundary for me like at 10 or 11. Like, at some point, it just went, there's a couple of here. I'm just like, either I'm getting too old or that's too much.
Yeah, there's one.
To me, it was just that the graphics got so realistic that it started to look more real. Because like if it's super goofy, like it's easier for me to handle. It just looks like a bad horror movie, and I'm cool with that. Like that's fine.
Yeah, like the old classics, arcade games and their sprites or whatever.
Yeah.
Of, the old, literal Mortal Kombat, the first fatalities and such are so goofy. It's like, yeah, great, okay, we can deal with this.
Yes, my grandfather, Mortal Kombat the first.
Yes. Please, my first name is Mortal. Mr. Kombat is my dad. No, there's one in MK1 that I kind of always use as an example when I talk about this, where Melina bites the top of somebody's head off and it kind of slurps their brain out. And it's extremely vivid. And at the end, you're looking at the top of someone's head where you can see the lower row of their teeth and their tongue and like all the little bits of brain. And it's just like a little bit much for me. But again, it's a good game. If you like Mortal Kombat, you'll like this one. I think it plays probably the best out of any MK game. It has the best story, for sure. Lots of single-player content, Missed the Crypt, but I would give it the coveted platformers, Catch the Fever, Play MK.
The Catch the Fever award? I didn't say this earlier, but Disgaea 7 also gets the Catch the Fever award.
Yes. I kind of figured. I was
we gotta make sure. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done. So many games are Fever catch worthy. Nowadays it's sometimes I forget about our special rewards.
So yeah, quite good. I do hope that they add some stuff that kind of smooths out the rough edges. But if you like Mortal Kombat, you're gonna get a kick out of this. And if you don't like Mortal Kombat, you're gonna have a good time with just the single player stuff because there is a lot of it.
That's cool.
Good times.
So the year continues to be good for fighting game fans.
Mm-hmm.
We got a crazy awesome. I think personally awesome patch in DBFZ. We got a great patch for Guilty Gear Strive and great characters. We got, MK. We got Street Fighter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Tekken 8 is right around the corner.
Right around the corner. And I haven't played it yet, but, the verdict seems to be positive on that, at least what people have played so far.
I'm very high on it based on what I played. So yeah, I think if you are a fighting game fan, you are eating. Continue to eat well, play some MK. You'll have a good time.
Cool. All right, Kris. Take it away with one of your topics of choice. Oh no. Have we lost our boy?
Kris, no, come back.
Come back to us.
Not like this.
No. Well, how you doing? How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I have I'm flying out tomorrow for a big project that I can't talk about, but eventually we'll be able to talk about. So I'm excited for that. I've been playing a lot of MK. I'm good, man. And my wife is playing Final Fantasy 16 behind me. How far is she? Not very far. She hasn't unlocked anything really fancy yet. She's still with our teenage boy Clive.
Heck yeah!
So, it's good.
Oh, is she in the village with the Marlboro?
Yes, she's in the village with the Marlboro. Kris is back.
Kris is back.
Timing on that was so perfect. Oh my god!
Did you hear me throw it to you?
Literally, nice. The last thing I see and hear is like, you take it away, Kris, and I go, and then I see you're not moving. Oh,
yeah.
Here we go. Australian internet strikes again. Thankfully, it only ever hiccups for like a minute at a time. Apologies.
Nice.
Right, where was I?
So,
I don't know. Tell us what you're going to talk about, man.
Starfield.
The latest game from Bethesda Softworks.
The Todd descends from his heaven to grace us with another big, way too big open world kind of extravaganza. So I spoke about this a little bit last time to Brian, where I was about 80% of the way through it, and most of the way through, I think. I've since finished the main story, started the new game plus, which ties into the story, interestingly enough. It's pretty good in that regard. But started that, dabbled that, and got enough to get a sense of where I'm at with it. And then basically moved right on to Cyberpunk and enjoyed that more, but I'll get to that. So, like, I came out saying, like, this is the most and the best 7 out of 10 you'll ever play, and I still kind of stand by that. It's... my feelings on this are so weird. So it's good, but it's also not good, but it's also very generic, but it's also got moments of greatness that are possibly the best thing Bethesda has done since Morrowind, or like the Shivering Isles kind of thing. But, it's... So, let me start at the beginning, I suppose. The setup
I am born.
I was born in Australia. My name is Kris. Yeah. No, it starts off and you're a miner on a space mining company contract thing, sent to pick up this weird reading thing, and you go in and you find this weird artifact, and you touch it and you have visions of the universe and weird shit.
Wait.
And wake up.
We're talking about Mass Effect, right?
Yes. It is literally the Mass Effect opening. I'm not even kidding. It's that same thing. Prothean Relic. Just that. It's like, we don't get that many sci-fi RPGs, and you chose to borrow almost beat for beat the most popular of all time. Bold decision, Bethesda.
Bold strategy. Yeah. Let's see how it pans out for them.
Apparently, yes and no is the answer, because they're selling well and reviewing middling. But anyway. But you get that, and then the guy who contracted you to come get it basically comes down and says, cool, yeah, we're collecting these. We're part of this Explorers Guild called Constellation. You're in now. I've had the vision to go back to this planet, and we'll talk about it. And you just get thrust along on the main quest. There's a few little things, dealings with, pirates and such to actually get there, and like in the intro tutorial kind of mini dungeon thing, which was much like the preview that they showed off, like basically the same thing. You get a feel for all of that, and then you get introduced to Constellation, and like, yeah, we're looking for these relics. Here's the other one now, and you put them together, and they kind of float around and look like what sort of looks to be like a prototype Halo, basically. And then, man,
we're really playing the hits, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's that, it's Stargate, it's all of them. It's very, very classic sci-fi in that regard. But yeah, and then you basically go on fetch quests and such to find more of these artifacts. And
somebody told Todd Howard that the best artists steal, and he took that shit personally.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, the best artists steal, and you don't realize they're stealing. There's the second part there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I don't know. The problem is the main story starts off very dry, very formulaic. The main characters and such are very dry. The city and the faction you start with is like the most bland, dry, space bureaucrat stuff imaginable. And while there's good stuff in the side quests and the different factional quests that they have, which the main quest kind of leads you to, and those tend to be very good. Like, they're well written, they have decent characterization, they take you to the more interesting set pieces in the game. Genuinely very good. But the main quest isn't that until around the halfway point. Up till that, it's very dry, and there's always an aspect of the game that just feels very dry. It doesn't, despite coming out, years after Cyberpunk, it doesn't have like a fraction of the believable livability of Night City, of that setting. All of it just feels so, it's all the worst of the Oblivion and Skyrim memes of dialogue and NPCs, just all of that is just there, and it's really hard to get into. And combine that with all the technical dramas I had getting the blasted game to work and work well, that I genuinely don't know why I bothered until the halfway point when it gets better. And I'm just like, why wasn't this at the beginning? You really could have easily shifted things around And the big halfway reveal basically introduces a faction that might be aliens, they might not be, they might be super technical humans, they might not be. You don't know. It goes into it as the story goes. But they're the interesting faction. They're the weird shit that kind of ties into the weird shit of the artifacts. So like, okay, now we have something here. And they continue to actually, you know, be in effect and be more interesting. And yet there's still a lot of, you know, side questing and generic radiant procedural generation stuff, even in the main quest, to gather the artifacts and such. It's like, But then at the same time, they give you set piece missions that take you to more interesting locales with more interesting options and things like that. It's not quite immersive sim, certainly not like on the level of Cyberpunk. Again, this is the constant comparison I'm going to make. But like, there's options, and it rewards your ability to roleplay and choose and fuck around with it a little bit. And it's good. There's genuinely parts of it that's like, yeah, this is good. More of this. Less of the 1,000 planets of, you know, fucking nothing, just set to procedural generation of stuff where I go to literally the same exact dungeon, including the friggin' procedural generation, like distress beacon and the flavor text notes or whatever. It's like, I've been to this helium-3 mining facility beat for beat 4 times, and I shit you not, it's like each of them has a person named Carlos who is like, man, they fucking betrayed us. I can't believe it. Every time. It's like, yeah, just less of that, more of the curated stuff.
Carlos, by this point, like, you need to stop being surprised that they're betraying you, man.
Yeah, man, like, just join the pirates, seriously.
The worst version of Groundhog's Day?
Basically, yeah. I keep going to all these helium-3 mining facilities, and they all end up getting screwed by the corporations. Who knew? But yeah,
that's crazy, bro.
Crazy, man. Like,
I also think
shame on me.
I also think it's pretty interesting that that like this is coming out around, like, roughly around the same time as the 2.0 patch plus, like, Phantom Liberty for Cyberpunk. Given that these are both, like,
that's the comparison that I had, because I went straight from one to the other.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
very, like, open-ended first-person shooter with, like, RPG elements and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it definitely seems like people are feeling one way more than the other. Although, I mean, Starfield does have its advocates, for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, again, they cater to different audiences, because Bethesda games are Bethesda games. You know them, you know if you're going to like them, you know they're probably not going to be that deep. They're going to be wide, but not deep. It's like, wide as an ocean, shallow as a puddle. And it's like, cool. Yeah. You can have fun with this, though. You can just go explore, combat, loot, repeat. And that's fine. And that's kind of what I went in knowing. It's like, yeah, I'll probably have that. And what's frustrating is that it still has that, but it also has more barriers to entry for that. There's a lot more loading screens, a lot less just flat open here as a world, go nuts. Because, like, say what we will about Fallout 76, but it was fun to explore that game until it broke constantly. Yeah. And that was the big thing. And then all the rest of it. But it's like, yeah, that was good. But here it's like, I want to do that. It's like, cool, I got this planet and I've seen one thing, and then it's just procedural generation all the way out. Cool. Can I, get in my ship and fly off? Nope. That takes me to a menu, loading screen. I'm in space. It's a little box. There's nothing really there. I can interact with that, but then loading screen, jump to another planet, loading screen, land on that planet, loading screen, just constant. And it really gets in the way of just, whereas in Fallout 4 or Skyrim, it's like, pick a direction, go, have fun.
Yeah.
Encounter shit, do stuff. Won't be that deep. You'll have fun. You'll enjoy yourself. And again, it's just like there's more barriers to entry for that in Starfield. But by contrast, the curated stuff is genuinely better. There's it's a higher quality bar than a lot of like the main Skyrim factions and stuff, or a lot of the Fallout 4 quests and things like that. And the story does end up panning out decently. There's still holes through it. I can pick through forever, obviously, but it's fun. I enjoyed it. I stuck it through the end. Did that and went into New Game Plus. So like, this is good. I would play this again. Maybe once my computer is upgraded, so it's actually freaking optimized for it, because Todd lied. So shockingly, it's not optimized for PC.
So, what would your recommendation be for people who were thinking about checking this out? Would it be avoid side content and just stick with the main quest?
It's hard to say because that will give you the worst impression. Because again, the main quest only gets good around the halfway point. And through that point, it's very dry, very repetitive, very kind of bland. And it's like, it really depends. It's like if you go for just the exploration, if you just play it like you would like a Fallout 76 or, just go in a direction and have fun, that would also screw you over. I don't think you would get that much out of it. But if you played it almost like you would in Morrowind, where you just, pick the factions, go to the factions, do their quests, do the main quests in the curated hubs, the big cities, some of that is generally some of the best they've done since, again, Shivering Isles or like Far Harbor, like the smaller curated Bethesda DLC, which, lo and behold, is better than their big open stuff. And it's like,
yeah,
it's so hard because I don't know who this is for, because again, like, there's problems here that Bethesda game fans would find. There's things they'll love. There's things that general RPG fans would love. There's things they won't. It's so mixed, which is why I'm in this kind of, the most enjoyable 7 out of 10 I've played in a while, and why that keeps coming to mind, because there's just so many problems, and yet I enjoy it, but I have to dig constantly, and it's not... it's weird. Like, I see myself going back to this. I do. More so than I ever intend to, because I will never play Skyrim again, right? Like, I've burnt myself out on that way too bad. Don't enjoy it. Will never go back. I would have to mod it so hard, and I've already done that, so I'd have to mod it even further, and it's like, it's not worth it. I'll never play Skyrim again. But I routinely play Morrowind, or Morrowind mods. This Starfield, I see myself going back and fucking around with it at least a bit, because of once it gets going, the underlying systems and such are cool. The story quests are interesting eventually. But man, there's just so many barriers to entry, and it's just, yeah, it's the hardest game I have to actually figure out in a while where I sit on it, because it's so up and down, so all over the place. And so what can I say? It's except like 7 out of 10 with highs and lows on either side of that. Probably worth your time, but maybe not. But also kinda. But also get it on Game Pass so you're not paying money for it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's where I have to leave it. Like, that's where I'm at with it. It's just, it's good, but with several asterisks. And
It's very interesting because that makes me wonder. It makes me wonder, would Bethesda be better suited for making different types of games? But also,
yes.
But also, like, even the games that they're beloved for, like your Morrowinds and stuff, like, presumably aren't super curated or,
Morrowind
more
is,
linear.
And that's why it stands out.
Okay.
Like, Morrowind isn't linear about it, but the main difference between Morrowind and everything else after that is that they had a writer. They had an actual writer sit down and pull all of it together. Different from afterwards, they didn't have like a core writer who would make sure all the quests and such line up. And different people did different quests in Morrowind in terms of writing, sure. But they still had the overall guy pulling it all together. And that's why the main quest and the world building in that game is so damn good. Because the writers in that focused and got it all right and got all the details down and made it work. Whereas later, they don't have an overall writer. They have quest designers. The quest designers will take their chunk that they are designing and they will write for them, which is why you get people like Emil Pagliarulo most famously did the Dark Brotherhood quests in Oblivion.
Which everybody talks about.
That it. He also did the arena in Oblivion, which is not so good because there's nothing. That probably got sacrificed on the altar of disk space. But then by contrast, you had somebody did the Mages Guild in Oblivion, which is god-awful. Somebody did the Fighters Guild in Oblivion, which is not particularly good. Somebody did the main quests in Oblivion, which is okay. It's fine. And then you have Shivering Isles, which is all of it condensed into a better thing with good writing and good, solid direction. It's like, that's the kind of game you should be making. The big open stuff, you spread yourself too thin. that's the ultimate thing. Is Starfield, you keep spreading yourself thinner and thinner, and so the really good stuff there's so much more stuff and filler in between what is actually good, what is worth seeing, what is worth doing. This is true of every game they've had since Morrowind. It's just every time they spread themselves further and further out. It's like, there's good stuff in Fallout 4. There's also a lot of not. There's good stuff even in Fallout 76. There's also a lot of not. And it's gotten even worse because of the subscription stuff or whatever. That game did not get fixed by any of the stuff. It's worse now than it was at launch. Bugs better, everything else worse. True story. Don't let people tell you otherwise. Fallout 76 is not a good game. It's never gotten better. Seriously.
That's interesting, and I know that this will make you happy, Kris, but this doesn't make me want to play Starfield, but it does make me interested in going back to play Morrowind, because
which you should, and I will keep hounding you until you do, because it's worth it.
Yeah, Morrowind is legitimately great. Yeah,
it's my favorite game of all time for good reason, and I don't say that lightly. So, yeah. But that's the thing. Again, Starfield has those moments where it's like, oh, this is good. This is up there. But it's spread too thin. And I feel like Bethesda needs to stop leaning on so much stuff. Like I was kind of on board of what they were saying on Starfield in release, and they said 1,000 planets. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. There's no way that's going to be good, because they're not going to be curated. You don't have...
And it's true, they aren't. There's 6 really good planets and then a bunch of just filler.
So then what it should have been it should have been 6 planets.
Yeah, it should have. It should have been more focused, more, developed areas on curated planets, maybe like a full-on star system, a cluster of star systems, not like as many as they have. Just bring it down, focus it in a little bit, maybe. And also don't market it like an exploration game, because it's not. Like, it doesn't have nearly as much, seamless transition between ground and space and everything like No Man's Sky does. You can't do any of that. So it doesn't even compare to No Man's Sky in that regard. It is just a straight up RPG. But there's so much just filler stuff. It's like, I want to go off and check this out. And it's like, cool, you're going to have a very bland time. Come back here when you want to actually do something cool. Because we do have cool, and it's like, you do have cool.
Yeah.
But, yeah, they need to stop spreading themselves so thin. That's what it takes. Like, Bethesda have made they were the first ones to really do the really big open world stuff, to really lean into procedural generation, and it worked for a point, but they are no longer the only game in town. They're no longer the only people doing this, and now people have outclassed every aspect of their game. Maybe not all at once, but definitely individually. And it's really starting to show, especially with how long it takes for them to actually put out these games. Because now that they're doing this, they're moving on to Elder Scrolls 6, and it's like, cool, there's going to be 17 years between Skyrim and TES 6. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
I think that's also
a different team on it.
Fairly optimistic on the release date.
Yeah, I know it is.
And you are hoping, but not counting on Bethesda to learn lessons from CD Projekt and the other, or even Nintendo, or Larian or whoever else are making
FromSoft, everyone else,
these huge FromSoft, and all of these other studios that are tackling open world kind of open-ended stuff, but in a more rewarding, more consistently high quality way, and rewarding players with the amount of choice and consequence that they want from these sorts of games, without having to think about how many times Carlos was betrayed before he wised up.
Pour one out for Carlos.
Poor Carlos.
Pour 4 out for Carlos. 1 for each Helium-3 mining facility he was on.
Oh, man. Listen, man. We've all been there. Maybe not at a Helium-3 mining facility, but...
If I had a nickel for every time the corporation betrayed my Helium-3 mining facility...
I have 4 nickels.
I would have 20 seconds, which isn't amazing. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened 4 times.
But yeah, so I want Bethesda to just take a step back, to look at the rest of the industry, to look at what everyone else is doing, and not just make games in their own bubble, regardless of what else is going on in the industry, to actually take that to account and then lean into their strengths and, hedge up their weaknesses, build on their strengths, make something that's just more focused, because when it's focused, it's good. It really is. Like, again, I rate Shivering Isles. I rate Far Harbor. I rate parts of Starfield. But the overall package leaves a lot of filler and a lot to be desired. So, yeah, cut the chaff, get to that. That's the lesson that you need to take going forward. Otherwise, it's just you're going to continue to see diminishing returns, especially with the money and time and everything it takes to develop this. It's like, it's not going to work. It's just not going to keep working because the industry is leaving you behind now.
And the
modders are leaving you behind now. That's the thing that keeps you alive, and you know it, to the point where there's flaws and things that they know. It's just like, we don't have to worry about that. I'm certain a lot of their design pipeline comes down to, we don't have to worry about tweaking or balancing these things because modders will do it for us. We don't have to worry too much about bug fixes, things like that. Modders will do it for us. And to be fair, Starfield it's not bug free, certainly not, especially not my experience, which is well known at this point. But it's better. It's better than it was. Like, it's better than Fallout 76 in terms of playability. But yeah, there's something there. It could be great. I just want them to refine it. I want them to make a Morrowind, not another Skyrim.
Yeah, and this goes back to, a pet issue for the platformers, which is, the fact that we're getting these very, very bloated games, and that games cost more than they ever have, and that people keep getting laid off at all of these studios all the time. These problems are all connected, guys. These problems are all connected.
Capitalism. I mean, it's all just capitalism at the end of the day.
The
line has to go up. The feature list has to go up, but with less cost.
Yeah.
Highest reward for lowest risk. And the moment anything goes wrong, or even if it doesn't go wrong and we get record profits, cool. Cut expenditures, because that's how the line keeps going up. It's not for us. It's not for them. It's for shareholders, always.
Yeah. So stop making these ridiculously bloated games and start focusing and making more high quality games and releasing them more often. And then you will not have these ridiculously huge flops that cost multiple hundreds of millions of dollars to make. And then if they aren't some earth shattering, every movie that comes out can't be Avatar. Every movie that comes out can't be Titanic, Avengers, Avatar, all of these. You can't bank on making one of those and justify that. There are like 2 development houses that can do that. And it is not worth chasing that unless you have a captive audience and you are the only game in town and your quality bar is high. Because eventually people are going to get fed up with that shit and they're going to leave. And then you're just going to
if you manage to
collapse.
Continue going through and your numbers are still decently high, you get diminishing returns. Just look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Just speaking of, hire writers. Game developers. Seriously, hire writers. Don't just have other people write for you. Hire actual writers. It is the cornerstone on which your storytelling is done. Graphics, gameplay, etc. Important, useful, or whatever, but it can only get you so far. If you want to tell a story, get a storyteller. Simple as that.
Yeah. Why do you think some of the best CRPGs have one particular name on their on the writing credit? It's because hiring a good writer can get you a good story. Not always, but you can look at it this way. What's Stephen King's hit to miss ratio? He's got a lot of really high selling stuff. Sure, not everything is great, but if you hire him, odds are pretty good it's going to be good. he's going to come up with something interesting.
And he's prolific.
Yeah.
That's how he's not the best example because he's so goddamn prolific. He's written so much.
Yeah.
Often to a schedule, it's not going to always hold up. You compare that to, say, Brandon Sanderson or whatever, probably a higher hit ratio. You know?
But that even so, I'm just, to make the point that, like, even at that level, like, even if you're trying to crank something out, like, if you get a good writer, it's going to be more reliable. And that's worth it. I want games that are shorter, that are tighter, that are more focused, that are telling specific stories, that come out more often and cost less to make. And that is a great way to mitigate risk. And that's also a great way to get more regular revenue so that your games don't have to be fucking mega blockbusters for you to stay afloat. Anyways.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it again because it's gonna keep happening until people listen.
I need to just point out the very obvious fact here of what's the best modern Fallout game? It's New Vegas. Who made that? Not Bethesda. It was Obsidian, doing it in 18 months with Bethesda's tech and engine, focusing, curating, making something really goddamn special. It's not as broad or explorable. It's not meant to be as Fallout 3 or 4. But goddamn, does it hit so much harder for it. When you have people like, Josh Sawyer and whatnot actually writing and designing the entire thing around that experience. Shit's great.
And then
far better than they got elsewhere.
And then look at a Bethesda published series, Dishonored. Way more focused, way more linear than these other games. And that lets this, and it's with a focus on story and writers, as we've seen. And that leads to a way better story. And
very much
being systems focused, which is something that Bethesda is nominally about, but they don't let it
their
carry.
Systems focused to the mainstream. That's the problem. They've sacrificed depth for mass appeal. Yeah, and that's just continued to be just continue to sand off the rough edges until everything is smooth and featureless.
And that was a great strategy when they were the only game in town consistently.
Precisely.
And that's not the case anymore, which means you either need to adapt or die. And we're going to see in the next couple of outings from Bethesda's internal development studio which one of those two it's going to be. I don't imagine them sinking because they've got enough. It's like Nintendo. There's enough diehard fans that are going to be there no matter what. But I think for their larger relevance, for the larger relevance in the gaming scene, I'm very interested to see because it's been a minute since Bethesda has had something that was critically well received. I think the last one that was really well received was Skyrim. Yeah, so
probably.
It's
because Fallout 4 was mixed in.
And I liked it. That was my first Fallout game since I think Fallout Tactics or Fallout Brotherhood of Steel. Which are like totally.
Man, you had a rough intro. Oh.
Yeah.
So, man, cutting me deep.
So yeah, but yeah. So when I played Fallout 4 and then I played Far Harbor, I was like, yeah, all right. Like I that was when I was in my like trophy hunting, achievement hunting phase. So like I 1,000 pointed Fallout 4 on Xbox and then did all the DLC and all that sort of stuff. And I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like crazy amazing, but that was, something that I was going through and enjoying at the time. But I think
it's better for just dropping you in and just letting you loose. Fallout 4 was. It's like, because again, less loading screens and less menus and such in between. It's like, I'm just going to go off in this direction and see what's up. And I still rate, I forget the name of it, but the really heavily irradiated zone in like the very edge of the map, the glow or whatever it is, or is that the first game?
It was like the glowing sea or what, something
like that. Yeah. That area rules.
Yeah.
That
it's really
area
interesting.
is really cool. But
the moment when I realized that wasn't like a limit, but like I could actually go out there was like, that was a very cool moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that place is cool.
Anyways, let's move on to the next thing. I've shot my shot, so it's up to you guys what you guys want to talk about next. Disgaea 7 has been all I've been about for a while.
I could talk about a game.
By all means, do so.
So I've been playing Wanted Dead, which came out in February. Kind of a mixed reception, but I'm actually pretty high on it. It's weird. it feels very much like a PS2 era action game, GameCube era, Xbox era, like early 360 era, that kind of game. It was made by Soli. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but a bunch of ex-Team Ninja folks. And they have made a game that is very much like those games. It's the way I would describe it, and in this case, people are going to be like, "Oh, that sounds terrible." Is it feels a lot like Devil's Third, and now I'm actually like Devil's Third is better than people give it credit for being. But it feels like Devil's Third if it was just better in a lot of ways. It's still very weird. The voice acting is not very good. Things happen all over the place. Sometimes you're in an anime cutscene. Sometimes you're in a regular cutscene. Sometimes characters just sit at a table and talk in a cutscene that has no like plot purpose or for 2 minutes. Sometimes there's a cutscene where a character just gets up, goes, changes the song on the jukebox, comes and sits back down, and you're like, what is going on? But it has this B-movie vibe that is immaculate. Like it's great. And it's actually pretty good combat-wise. One of the things I like about it is, like Devil's Third, you have a gun and you have a sword. And you have a pistol. The pistol you can use to stun people and then do combos, and you can also use it in your combos. And then the gun is more like at range, I don't feel like getting close to you, and you have a cover system. But what it all boils down to is a game where it rewards you for being aggressive, kind of the way that the modern Doom games do, where you can get parts of your health back for doing executions. You can, chop people's limbs off and then execute them. It has a lot of really, I don't know. It just when it's hitting, it feels really good because you'll do a combo. You'll have an enemy come up and they'll try to like do an unblockable attack to you. You'll step back, shoot them with the pistol because that's your option, right? Do an execution, go into the next combo. So like the action part of it feels quite good, but the vibe of it is just like very B-movie, in a good way. It's not a super long game. It's like maybe 8 to 12 hours depending on your difficulty. It has a bunch of weird mini games. There's like a crane game you can play where you can like pick up collectible versions of the characters. There's a jukebox.
Shenmue style.
Yeah, there's a jukebox you can choose. Like they recorded songs specifically for this game, I think. There's like actually like a shmup in there that's quite good. Like the boss battles are pretty interesting. It's a little janky. It's quite janky. But it feels good when it works, and it has like a good vibe, and it does have some technical issues. Like I said, it's a little janky and like has dropped frames for me, and at one point it crashed. But I don't know. This is one of those games where you look at it and you're like, with more money, this could be really cool.
More money or a little more focus, a little more time and polish.
Yeah, it's one of those games that like it feels like one of those AA games, right? From like the early aughts where you're like, I like this. This isn't like perfect, but I like this. And that's where I'm coming with Wanted Dead.
There's definitely a market for that now, and there's been a long time where that was just absent, where it's like indie or AAA and no in between. Everything I saw about this is exactly that vibe. It's the AA. It's in between that, and it's like neat. There's a market for that.
Yeah, and it's very campy. I feel like this is going to be one of those games. I feel like in a few years where it's going to achieve like cult classic status, and people are
style, but hopefully for better reason.
Devil's Third style, or maybe like Deadly Premonition style, where like, it has problems. Yeah, like it doesn't always work, but like there's like the vibe is good. The
charm and vibe is undeniable.
Yeah. And like I said, the combat is actually really enjoyable. I love you have a lot of animation cancels in this game. That always feels really good. Just like being able to chop people up. Like there's like not a huge amount of enemy variety, and one of the things that I really like about Wanted Dead is I feel like a lot of action games are like, here's this enemy, they are combo fodder. Go nuts. Right? Where they're going to attack you a little bit, but most of the time they're just there
here for you to style on,
Yeah, they're here for you to raise that style meter. We are smoking stick style. That's what they want you to do. These dudes, even like the basic enemies, if you are not paying attention, will just kill you. Because they hit pretty hard. And now you have, an upgrade tree. I feel like some of the upgrades they could have just given to you. Like there's one where you can buy an upgrade that like if you've delimbed somebody, you can just execute them, which I feel like should just be a thing. But you get it really early, so it doesn't feel too bad. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good vibe. It's got a great B movie feel to it. I enjoyed playing it, and I'll probably play it again. It took a minute for me to get there because it is also very difficult. Like when I'm saying these enemies will kill you, they will kill you. If you're like, I'm just going to go out here with my katana and start slicing people up, and you're not using your guns or you're not taking cover, you're just going to get killed. Straight up, you will just get killed. But if you approach it like a little more tactically, like, all right, I'm going to soften this guy up and move forward, and then I'm going to, come out from behind cover and chop him up and then go into the next dude. It actually has like a very good rhythm to it that you can get into. So yeah, we don't give scores on this show, and it's good because I don't know what I would score it. It's very much like a weird little thing that has come out. But if that sounds interesting to you, I do recommend it. I had a lot of fun playing it. Sometimes I was sitting here like, is this good? Is this bad? And ultimately I settled on, I don't really care. I'm having a good time.
That's a good place to come to after all that.
Yeah. So yeah, I think in about 5 years we're going to have a cult classic. And I hope that they get to make a sequel or a similar type of game with a little bit more money and a little bit more, time to polish it and kind of refine it. But I do think that like there's a lot of cool stuff here. Yeah, the bones are there. There's a lot of cool stuff about those times. Devil's Third again has a lot of cool stuff in it. And if you talk to people who like played that multiplayer, like they'll just tell you like there's a lot of good stuff in there. So this feels like kind of an evolution of that, and hopefully they get to do something else with it. So thank you to 110 Industries for sending me a code. I'm still playing it. We'll be playing it a little bit more, but my review of it is this is super weird. It's very B movie. I half expected Tommy Wiseau to come out like halfway through and start talking.
Oh boy.
Just because of some of the voice acting, but good vibe.
That energy, okay.
Yeah, good vibe, good combat. Any game that has a crane game or like something like that, like a shoot 'em up that you can just play, like or like a rhythm game where you slurp noodles, like it's so weird. But I love it.
They definitely sound like they're aiming for the Yakuza kind of crowd in that, which I respect. I mean, I am a Yakuza Like a Dragon fan, but yeah.
Yeah, I, as a fellow Yakuza enjoyer, yes. So yeah,
I have to keep saying Yakuza Like a Dragon because the series name is now officially changing, and I'm so used to it. It's a problem. What do I do, man?
I just call it the RGG game.
That's probably better. And then you just lump in Judgment and everything with the rest.
Yeah,
of it's Star game they did. Yeah.
It is the RGG series. But yeah,
that makes sense.
But it does a little bit of everything. It doesn't always do everything well, but I do think if you want to dig into that combat, there's some really neat stuff there. And if you like B movies, I think you'll have a good time. Like, listen, the whole setup is basically like you are the Suicide Squad turned into a privatized police force. It's goofy.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? It turns out when you privatize the police, a lot of things can go wrong, actually. But yeah, quite enjoyable. Like I said, I'm glad we don't do scores because it's one of those things. I feel like how I felt when I played, Kris, I don't know if you've played this, or Brian, I don't know if you've played this, but I played Drakengard 3 several years ago.
I have not, although it is adjacent to a series that I kind of enjoy. So I've thought about it a few times.
I'm familiar with it, but haven't sat down and played it. So
yeah, so I really like Drakengard 3, and I actually had to review it, so I had to give it a score. I think I ended up giving it a 7. But I think one of the things I wrote about it, I'm not sure if it made it past my editor, was like, this is not a game that you should play because I scored it a certain way. Like, this is one of the most interesting games I think I've ever played in my life. And yes, it has a ton of problems, but also I'm compelled the entire time I'm playing it, which is kind of how I feel about Wanted Dead. So, yeah, go play a cool B game. It's only $40. It'll probably go on sale. It is quite enjoyable. It's quite unique. And at the very least, you will play something different than anything else you'll play this year, I guarantee you.
Fun fact about that little aside about review scores and their value or limited value when it comes to the work of us critics, is that this is the main reason why during the Platformers Game of the Year, we have 2 different awards that we give out. We have the Critics Award, which is given for like the most perfect game, the game with the fewest flaws that is the most laudable in the myriad of ways we judge these sorts of games. And there's the heart pick, which are your really compelling 7s or 6s or whatever, where something clearly has a lot of problems, but it also usually has those problems because there's a goal. There's something that they want to express. There's something the developer really wants to try. And, when you shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you still land among the stars. And I think that is why people like, Will and myself, and I'm just going to speak for you a little bit, Kris, value these sorts of flawed gems because there is something interesting in them. And
absolutely,
when we kind of whitewash our games to give them mass appeal and try to blue ocean things, a lot of times we lose what is unique about these experiences. It's a flawed game, but Catherine is not like anything else that you'll ever play. Eurokill is not like anything else that you're going to play. Like, these games are not like incredible, but they are super interesting. You know what I mean? And
it's like how I say Morrowind has 2 sequels, but it has no sequels.
Yeah.
Neither of the sequels are anything quite like it.
No.
And its systems have not been iterated on in any other game like it. So it's just, I think the best way to put the awards is the Top Gear meme of, this is brilliant, but I like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I think that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I'm quite positive on Wanted Dead. I know that a lot of people did not like it. I feel like it's going to be one of those games where you either vibe with it or you just don't. So, if you're considering it based on what we've said, like watch some gameplay, do some reading. But I quite dig it if you like B games, if you like AA games, if you like that vibe, if you like games with really cool combat systems, like definitely play Wanted Dead. And I had a good time with it. It was not what I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be a lot different based on what I'd heard people say. The reviews I had heard were overwhelmingly negative, and I looked at it and I was like, this seems fun, actually. And now that I've played it, I can say, yeah, this is fun, actually. So nice. give it a shout if you're interested.
Nice. All right, what else we got that we need to cover before we bring this episode to a close?
I have 2 more things. I don't know if anybody else has anything else.
I've still got one more thing, but let's go through it. So.
I will do one more, and then you do one more, and then I'll do my last one.
Yeah,
so
we'll ping pong.
I will do a very quick one. I watched tonight, before this very show, we looked at the time on the clock, and I have to record in 2 hours. And Kira was like, well, we just got a copy of Prey, which if you don't know what Prey is, it is not the arcane
game.
It's
the sequel to Eat, Pray, Love.
Yeah, and it is not the Human Head game. I'm talking about the film that came out last year that is basically a Predator sequel. The main characters are Comanche, and there's a Predator. And you know what? And it was released on Hulu, which is bizarre because you'd think, like, oh, it's Predator, right? They'll put it in the theater. And so we sat down and we watched this, and about 30 minutes in, I think my wife and I looked at each other and said, this movie rules. And coming out of it, my thought was, this movie, why was this not in theaters? It is... I don't want to spoil it, right? Like, I feel like this is a movie, if you don't know anything about it, you should just go in and watch it.
I think I've heard that before.
Yeah. If it doesn't, like, if Predator versus group of Comanche folks does not sound interesting to you, I don't know how else to sell you on this film, because that's what it is, and it's amazing. And it's beautifully shot. It has some really great action sequences, though it's not an action film. I'd say it's more of maybe like a cat and mouse thriller, because obviously, there's a predator, and then there's a bunch of people who are like, don't have like laser sights on their shoulders, but it's got some great acting in it. Like I said, it's beautifully shot. It's very well choreographed. It's exciting. It is not long. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, so it's quite fast. There's a Comanche dub, which is really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It doesn't match the lips of the actors because a lot of them are speaking in English for most of the film. But it is cool that it's there.
Yeah.
And I came out of it being like, this might be the best Predator film. So if you like Predator, for the record, I'm very high on the original. I actually like Predators, which came out in like 2011, the one with Adrian Brody, quite a bit. And this one, I feel like,
too. Yeah, that's underrated.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty good movie.
I think I've only seen the first one and then AVP and AVP 2. I think those are the only ones I've seen.
So, yeah, if you haven't seen the other ones, you don't need to have seen them to watch this film. You can just go watch it. But, like I said, it's got everything you could want in terms of, like, being a Predator movie. And it's baffling to me that this was not released in the movie theaters. It came out on Hulu. So if you have Hulu, you can probably just go watch it. We got the Blu-ray. It's also on physical media if you like physical media. But
yay!
Yeah, we are big fans of physical media. You can see I still have a Dreamcast set up back there. Yeah, go watch Prey. It is great. It is great. It is great. I'm really hoping that they will make a sequel to it or something else like it. But I think it is easily one of the best Predator films that they've made. It feels
Prey
the most modern.
Prey harder.
Yeah, and it is fantastic. So also it is the first Predator film to have a female lead, I believe. So that's really cool too. Yeah, so go watch Prey. It's awesome. We really enjoyed it. 2 thumbs up from me and my wife. You can see her giving a thumbs up in the background.
I did see the thumbs up. Yep.
So now, go watch Prey.
Does she give a big muscular handshake to somebody in this movie?
No.
Ah. Damn it.
It's funny how that's become the most like enduring aspect of Predator.
Yeah, is that meme?
Shot. It's so good.
It's a good shot. Even
I use that like all the time.
Or, come on, kill me. Do it. Do it. You know, that.
Do it now. Yeah. God, Arnold.
Good film.
What a fucking champ.
Yeah, but if you like Predator, watch Prey. It is so good.
Yeah. Chris.
All right. Over to me. So not quite a full review yet because I'm still working through it, but as I mentioned, I finished Starfield and then went straight on to Cyberpunk. So this is a replay for me because I finished the base game middle of last year, I want to say, about then. And I did so because I was attempting to play Witcher 3 and catch up on it. I didn't want to play Witcher 3 anymore. I got really sick of it. I don't like Witcher 3. I'm weird like that. But I'm like, you know what? I feel like I should play something like that. I wonder how Cyberpunk is these days. So I installed Cyberpunk on a whim. And a week later, I had done nothing but and finished it and gone, holy shit, it's really good. Even with it still being somewhat buggy. Because I played it on release just to see, if it was going to be in Game of the Year discussions. Quickly figured, no, it shouldn't be. And then put it down and came back to it. But no, the bones of a friggin' great game were there even on launch. It was just so buried under broken systems and bugs and the infamous Cyberpunk 2077 release. So when I got to it, a lot of that had been ironed out. It's a really friggin' solid game. The story, I thought, really vibed with it. Had problems, but overall, I'm just like, man, this hits. This hits real hard. And so I've been a big fan since. So fast forward to today, or soon enough, it's like Phantom Liberty is coming out a week beforehand. The 2.0 update goes through, which overhauls all the systems, redesigns the skills and attributes, redoes the perk tree so there's a lot less, plus 2% more better or damage or something like that, into actual mechanics and tangible things where each perk point really feels like you can do some cool shit with it. I'm like, all right,
yes.
It's time. I'm going through it again. And so I did.
Is it going to be time for me to go back too?
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely should. Even without Phantom Liberty, if you haven't finished it, it's worth doing, I'd say. Because, yeah, I played, even before the expansion dropped, I was playing it and just going through again and just fucking around with the systems, doing gigs, proceeding through a little bit of the main story again, and just like, yeah, this still hits. This is still great. And the systems feel so much better now. It does breathe new life into it. It's
I've only played the first few hours of Cyberpunk. I got through the prologue, I guess, and then got a little ways into the story, but not very far. I can't imagine I played more than 3, 4, 5 hours maybe.
Did you do the heist, or were you still in the setup for that?
I was doing the setup. I was doing the dancing of that when I was looking at. That's in the guy's apartment, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So I was in that kind of area. going through like the memory and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's I think that's where I fell off, and I think part of the reason why I did fall off was because of that kind of 2% more frost damage on frost strike, sort of stuff.
Yeah, like the base perk tree and systems were pretty bland, and a lot of it was just broken as well. Like, just literally, it was almost impossible to actually level your athletics on launch, because rather than using things like use your stamina for run or whatever, it's like, no, it's only if you fully deplete your bar do you get XP for it. And a lot of things did not count for this because it was only when you would fully tick over. So you'd just be running until you got exhausted. You would get a tiny little bit of experience, and that's it. If you just ran and would stop and manage it, you would never level up athletics. So the best way to level it up was to go into a corner and just punch a wall until you couldn't. Wait, do it again. And it's like, this is stupid.
That is dumb.
Balked. So all gone, all fixed. Not
Nice.
a problem, not a concern anymore.
I've only got 3 months left till the end of the year. And I still got to finish Baldur's Gate, and I want to
do a deep dive of Baldur's Gate this month, and it's like, man, neither of us have finished it.
Although now that I'm finishing Disgaea, I'm going to have to tear myself away from the Disgaea 7 post game to play more Baldur's Gate 3. But
yeah, I'm going to have to finish Cyberpunk and then go back to Baldur's Gate. I think I'm just going to have to make it happen. But
which I think, that might line up timing wise because you're a lot further in Baldur's Gate 3 than I am. So
yeah, it's probably maybe like, depending on how thorough I am, it's like 20 to 30 hours at most. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But so regardless, been playing Cyberpunk, and then Phantom Liberty dropped, which is obviously the DLC, which expands the story, adds a new section of the game, adds a main story through that, which, features more of the voice cast, more Keanu, adds Idris Elba, both of which, do excellent performances. And yeah, Johnny was great and Keanu, therefore, was great in the first game, although the character himself is really like, he's a vile asshole. So that does color a lot of perceptions, but he does grow, he does get better, and he delivers an excellent performance. That's great. And the same is true now, both of his new stuff and Idris Elba. From what I've played, I'm probably about halfway through the DLC campaign and such. It slots in a little after the halfway point of the original main story, and I believe it adds a new ending variant. I don't know if that's the ending I'll end up going for, but it does. And so I'm working through that. And yeah, visually looks really good. Runs decently well. The new area is a little choppier, less optimized, but like, it's still a breath of fresh air after struggling with Starfield, so I'll take it.
Do you play Cyberpunk with mouse and keyboard or with a controller?
Yeah, mouse and keyboard. It's PC. So yeah, and I tried a wholly different build. Like last time I played through, I went, mostly stealth pistols, just very precise, very assassin. This time I'm just going full net runner. It's just like, I'm just gonna kill you with my brain. Just, you're on fire, you're poisoned, your head's exploding. Just, it's great fun. It's really dumb. And yeah, I think I'm overall enjoying Phantom Liberty. I don't know more or less yet than the main game, but it is still just very good. Slots in very well. And yeah, the systems overhaul definitely means if you haven't played Cyberpunk, you should. If you were on the fence about it before or kind of fell off it before, you should go back, give it another whirl. Definitely think it's great. Definitely think the base game and story had something really special and really good in there. Even at launch, just buried by bugs, and it's become much easier to see just what they were going for now. There's still just one major problem, and that is Cyberpunk is 2 games. It is 2 games, and they are incongruous, because one is the kind of GTA-esque life sim, be the legend of Night City, go around, do merc jobs, live it up, right? That kind of open world stuff. And the other is character focused, narrative, sit down, have conversations, discuss the world, go deep in themes, morality, everything. And that shit is the best of the game. Like, I love the narrative and the way it presents, and just how it does take time to humanize and to feel very like homey in a way. It's hard to describe without more time, I guess. But The problem is these two games are separate, and it feels like this is the wrong story for the kind of open world antic game they made. Just the fact that
it's too fun to be as serious as it is.
Yeah, it's like, if violence is so bad, why is it so much fun to kill people kind of quandary almost. But it's not quite to that, but it's like the main character is dying, has, like a ticking clock aspect to it, which you can just ignore and just go fuck around. And it's like, okay, fine, tonal dissonance, whatever. But so much of the story time then becomes about that and the focus on mortality and impending death and how you deal with it and how people deal with it and all that. And it's like, it's really good. It's really interesting. And the characters and such are really well thought out and good. And the character you inhabit, V, is a character. They're closer to a Commander Shepard rather than like any Bethesda, creator character thing, which is why, again, the whole self-customization, the multiple builds, the dialogue choices and such are almost, again, incongruous. It's two games, and it feels like they pivoted at one point, probably mid-development, to be the more narrative thing. And I don't necessarily feel this is the game they should have made that narrative for. And that's forever going to be its legacy, I feel. Two games, both very good, don't always blur together. And that's the problem. So, yeah.
So the two halves are good, but they just might not necessarily complement each other as well as they might.
Precisely. Yeah, because I love both of them. I love playing the game and, just fucking around. But I'm also a goddamn superhuman. Both, like, even beyond what the story has in terms of cyborgs and such. It's the whole case of, how can you tell any kind of compelling story about, like, Geralt or whatever when he's that fucking strong, when there is nothing that can threaten him? It's the same with V. It's like V is so goddamn powerful. Nothing can threaten them. And yet the story has them, so reduced and weakened and smaller than they actually are when you just get out and just gun down hundreds. It's like, it's just that kind of, that dissonance there. And it's just a fundamental thing, just a fundamental problem that I think of conflicting designs in the game when they were building it, and they never necessarily, they wanted too much. They wanted to have both, and it probably should have been two different things. That's all. But each of them is really good. They just don't blur together very well, and it creates weird tonal things. But other than that, yeah. But all that said, God, I love Cyberpunk 2077. It's really good. It's now as it should have been at release. And so far, the expansion is proving pretty good. And I rate it. Even if you don't pick up the expansion, go play the base game. Well worth your time. 100%. Never stop fighting.
Nice. All right, well, take us home.
All right, I have one more thing, and it's something that I was going to talk about on the PAX episode, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be allowed to, because it was a behind closed doors demo, and I was very excited to talk about it, and I didn't get confirmation from PR in time, which is my fault because I should have asked her earlier. However, now I'm going to do it. I played Magical Delicacy at PAX West, and I really liked it. So if you don't know what Magical Delicacy is, it is a roguelike game where you play as a witch, and a young witch, and she has moved to this new town where there are supposed to be other witches, and she is opening a bakery, restaurant, food place. And what is interesting about it is that you go throughout the town, you meet these other characters, and you do quests for them. And what that involves a lot of the time is making them food. So the roguelike element of this is, you can plant food, things change over time. Like, everything's never quite the same as when you go out into the town the next time. But the cool thing I think about it is that you can mix and match. So you have your recipes, right? But it's not like Overcooked where it's like, I put pasta, I put sauce, I make my spaghetti. It's like, hey, if you want to make this thing, these are some things that you need, but you can also substitute ingredients. And people will ask you to, because they're like, hey, I want you to make me this, but I don't want it spicy. Or I want you to make me this, but please no salt. So you have to figure out what the best way to make the dish is. And you get rewarded based on how well you do. So you can give somebody something that they didn't ask for, and you'll still get some money, but probably not as much as if you just give them the thing they asked for. It's got really gorgeous art, some absolutely beautiful sound design, really nice music. and it's just a good vibes game. So I really, really liked the demo that I played for it. I got to deliver a couple of different meals. I got to kind of play around with the cooking element of it. It's fun when you like have to heat up a pot with water, and she's lifting the water magically over to the pot. Just little things like that. I wouldn't say that it is a particularly, at least based on the demo that I played, like difficult game. But I feel like if you just want something a little more low key, where you can interact in this environment and experience this beautiful art, this beautiful music, and play around with this kind of cooking mechanic that allows you to customize and kind of problem solve, as opposed to like forcing you into a box, it is quite good. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah,
this sounds right up my alley. I gotta be honest with you.
Yeah,
it sounds like it's hitting me in the Battle Chef Brigade and/or Rune Factory vibes, both of which I really like. So
Battle Chef Brigade is pretty good.
Yeah, you've got my attention for sure.
Yeah, and I also want to praise the writing. It's very well written based on the demo that I played, and I believe the entire thing, if I'm remembering this correctly, is being developed by a single person. It is remarkably impressive given how this game looks and sounds and feels, and just the stuff that you can do with it. So keep an eye out for Magical Delicacy. That game is really, really cool, and I believe it comes out next year. I want to make sure before I say anything. It's on Steam. I'm just looking up at the Steam listing here. 2024. And Whitehorn Games is the publisher. So keep an eye out for it.
Consider it wish listed.
Nice.
I quite liked it. And I'm glad that I can actually finally talk about it. It was one of my favorite games that I saw at PAX West, and I just wanted to make sure that I could say anything about it before I, went on to talk about how much I loved it. Magical Delicacy is awesome. Keep an eye on it. Great little, good vibes game.
Good stuff. All right. And that's our episode. That's episode 289. We covered so many things. Thanks for sticking with us, listeners, viewers. You can join us live as we record each episode at twitch.tv/Ribnax, RIBNAX. And you can also find me at Ribnax on backlogged threads, Twitter, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. But I basically just hang out at Twitter and Blue Sky, where you can find me at Brian Barnett. If you like the show, share it with friends. And you can also see some of the stuff that I am promoting over at IGN.com, writing about stuff for IGN Plus. There's a bunch of giveaways that we're doing where you can win special Nintendo Switch OLEDs and custom Steam Decks. And if you're a subscriber to IGN Plus, you can get games every month and all that sort of stuff. I've got features that are up right now, including one about Dark Deity, which is a game that I reviewed for this very show. And then I got to sit down with the game director for that game and talk to him about a whole bunch of stuff, including why mages are the best class in anything, and about how we like cataclysms and tragedies in fiction, and all that sort of stuff. It was a really cool conversation, and it now seems as though I am going to possibly get to publish a video of our interview before too long, which I'm very excited about, because it was a fun time sitting down and chatting with him. And that's where you can find me. Kris, where can everybody find you?
Hi, you can find me at my website, versusthebacklog.com, one word, VS the Backlog. You can find me on Twitter and most video games and other places at the name Delphi, EI, not IE. And yeah, you see me around the internet doing various things, hopefully doing more freelance gigs and such in the near future. I will keep you posted on that. Will.
You can find me on Twitter at ByWillBurger. That's Burger with an O, not a U. And you can find me on Blue Sky at Edgar Allan Bro. I'm still working on getting used to posting in two places. That takes a little bit of time. You can also see my work at IGN, The Loadout, and various other places. I have a big project for IGN coming up that I cannot talk about, but I'm very excited.
It's cool.
It is very cool. I've also been helping out for the IGN wiki for Mortal Kombat and Armored Core 6. So if you've read any of those, I probably helped build the pages. Hopefully they're helping you. And I'm working on a review for them as well, which I will talk about on our next podcast.
Cool.
Good time.
All right, everybody. From everybody here at The Platformers, we hope that you have a wonderful week and stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Peace.
Peace.